everyone, it's Mari here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be making this pretty card for you today using the gorgeous Lovely Layers Coneflowers. I'm also going to be using the Burlap A2 background die. I love this die. I've had it in my stash for a while and it is just a really great go-to die for a background. Now I'm also going to be using the Sweet Stacks rectangle dies. I'm going to be using this die here from that set. This is a really great die set. It's a very much a staple in any crafter's supplies. It's just a really great set that has a lot of different sizes of rectangles. And of course, like I mentioned, I'm going to be using the gorgeous Lovely Layers Coneflowers. I love this die set. It's one of my favorite Lovely Layers for sure. Just makes the most beautiful floral for a focal point on your card. I'm going to just pick up all of these dies with my Spellbinders magnet. I love this tool and I will link this tool in the description box below because it is fantastic. And here you can see I have an A2 size top folding white card base for my project today. And I also have a piece of really pretty teal cardstock that I have trimmed down with that Sweet Stacks rectangle die that I showed you earlier. I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending on my cardstock here with a blending brush and some Uncharted Mariner Distress Oxide ink from Ranger. I really love this color and I love how it just kind of brings a little bit of more interest to my cardstock when I blend this on. I'm going to blend a little bit of that just around the perimeter of that paper, and then I'm going to bring in some black soot Distress Oxide and I'm going to just blend a little bit of black around that Uncharted Mariner, and that's just going to create this really pretty kind of like black glow around the outside edge. It really kind of draws your eye into the inside of the card with this black edging on it. I really like the effect. I think it's really stunning. So I'm going to just do a really narrow kind of perimeter with this black soot around the edge. And then that's just going to create the card base for my project today. So I really like that. This is going to be all ready to go when I'm ready to add all of the details to it. So I'll just set that aside and let that dry a little bit. And meanwhile, I have die cut out my coneflower pieces from white cardstock, and I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending here. I'm starting off with Peacock Feathers Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just going to blend around the edges and where there's embossing or etching on that die. So each one of these dies will create some little lines on the paper when you die cut them, and those little lined areas with that embossing, those embossed lines on them, is where that is going to really show when you layer this together. Now I did want to do a little bit of distressing with this as well, so I spritzed it with some water and then absorbed the excess with my flower sackcloth there. And I'm also going to do kind of like some little fine water drops as well with a fine watercolor brush. And then I'll just dry that with my heat tool and set that piece aside. And I'll do this exact same thing with every one of the other layers of the coneflower except the leaves. So just the bloom part, I'm going to do the same technique for doing the blending. Now I'm also going to add a little bit of speckled egg. So I'm using a combination of both the peacock feathers and speckled egg for the blending on the bloom. So I'll just show that here with this particular bloom here, and I'll talk about that. You'll just see I'm going in with the peacock feathers around the edge, and then I'll go in with the speckled egg a little bit more towards the center. And it just kind of like blends those colors together, but it also, and it's just sort of like a variation in color. And I like varying the colors when I'm blending on the Lovely Layers layers. I think it just makes them look a little bit more interesting and perhaps even more a little realistic. I just really like that look. And again, I'm going to splatter with the water just like I did with the first layer. And I do that with every one of the layers. Then when I'm all finished with the drying process for the different layers, I go in now with my top layer of my coneflower. And once I've got the outer edges blended together, I'm going to go in with some wild honey. This is one of my favorite distress colors. I love it. I'm going in with the wild honey for the center of the flower, so the top of the coneflower. I'll just go ahead and ink up all three of those different layers of that center and then set that aside. Now the leaves, I'm using a combination of three different greens. I'm using old paper, peeled paint, and crushed olive. And I'm just trying to, again, vary the colors of green here just to make the leaves look a little bit more interesting and a little bit more realistic. Give them a little bit of depth and dimension in that way. You can just see there's some lights and darks on the leaves. And I'm just trying to, yeah, just vary the color. I think that just looks really cool. And you'll see me come in here when I'm finished with the greens and blend over top of the greens with the brush that has the peacock feathers in it. And that's just going to bring in a little reflection of teal onto the leaves as well. And I just like how that looks as well. I think it just looks really cool and just is kind of going to look like a little bit of a reflection off the bloom and perhaps even the cardstock that's going to be around the edges of the flower. Now I'm just again doing that distressing with the water, and now I'm ready to layer these pieces together. I'm using some really thin foam adhesive where I use the foam adhesive on this part of the project. So I wanted just a little bit of foam adhesive on a couple of the layers. So the first and second layer, the top and then the next layer of the center of the coneflower here, I did bump that up with some foam adhesive, and then I put some liquid adhesive down after that. And then here for this first layer of the bloom with the flower petals, I'm going to bump this one up with foam adhesive as well. And so not a lot of foam adhesive in the layers of the flower blossom, just a couple of different foam layers to give it that little bit more dimension. And then otherwise just going ahead in with my honeybee liquid adhesive and adhering the different layers together. Now I am of course using my tweezers to help me out with this process where needed. And these are really, really easy to line up. Honeybee has done a really great job of making sure that every single layer of the flower has petals that are alike so that you can very easily find those petals and of course the top of the flower and just line up those edges. And it's really, really simple to put these together. How gorgeous is that little coneflower? I love the combination of the yellows and those beautiful teals and blues. And I'm just going to come in with a little bit of rusty hinge and just darken up the top of the center of the flower a little bit. And then I will blend that out with some wild honey with the wild honey brush also. So you'll just see me here going in with another brush, just making sure that there's no lines there. And now I'm going in with the Uncharted Mariner, and I'm just going to add a little bit of that to the edges. And if you see photos of this project in social media, oftentimes when you photograph a project, the colors don't come out quite like they actually are in real life. So hopefully you are able to see what these colors really look like on the video here. Now I'm going to do some splattering. I have the pieces in my splat box. I'm splattering with some, I think it's cheddar. This is Dina Wakley gloss spray. So I've used the cheddar. I'm using kind of a teal color of gloss spray and some white, but I'm also using my Honeybee Stamps Bee Shimmery liquid watercolor. I love this stuff. I could use this on absolutely everything. It is such a gorgeous product. And the Bee Shimmery is just going to add a little bit of sparkle and shine as well to this project. So the splatters just really add that extra little layer of detail to your project. I really think they elevate the blossom here really nicely and the leaves. And once that's all dry here, you can just see how cool that looks when those splatters are added on to the project as well. So with the water splatters and the distressing, the inks and the splatter, we really get this cool effect with these different die cut pieces. Now I'm ready to assemble my project. I'm going to go ahead in with my liquid adhesive here and adhere the teal colored card panel down to my cardstock. You can see that the square that I used for that slightly smaller than my base, so I have that nice white margin. Now I did take my burlap A2 cover piece that I die cut out of white cardstock, and I used my circle sweet stacks to die cut it into a circle. And I used my Bitty Buzzwords Fall die set. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is the best. These Bitty Buzzword sets are just the best sentiment sets because you can get a stamp and the coordinating dies, and the dies not only have this really gorgeous scripty die, but they also have the shadow layer, and there's tons of words in these sets. Make sure you check these out. I'm going to link to all of the Bitty Buzzword sets in the Honeybee shop, but the one that I chose here is the fall set and the word grateful. So you can see that I die cut the scripty word out of that same teal cardstock as my card front, and I adhered that onto a white shadow layer, and I really love how that looks. And I've bumped that up on a little bit of foam adhesive, some foam adhesive strips, and laid that down onto the bottom section of my card. And then I'm going to add some liquid adhesive onto my circle burlap background. And I really love how this turned out with that circle shape. And that's just going to be the focal point for my project. Now you could actually layer this onto a circle shape of cardstock if you wanted and bump that up on some foam adhesive. Lots of different ways that you could do this. I'm just going to fussy around a little bit here with arranging how I want my bloom and my leaves to look here. And you can totally die cut as many leaves as you want. You could put more than one coneflower on here if you wanted. Really, the sky's the limit. I really just wanted to keep mine simple. And so I'm just going to take a little bit of press and seal plastic wrap. I don't know why I chose such a large piece, but anyways, that's just going to hold everything together while I put some foam adhesive onto the back. And that foam adhesive is going to hold everything together. I'll take the grouping off of that press and seal and then remove the backer off of my foam adhesive, and I'll go ahead and adhere this onto my burlap circle there, and that is going to complete that portion of the card. And I really love how this looks. I love the combination of the colors. I think they're really pretty. These are the Adventure Awaits gem stickers. I love the honeybee gem stickers. They're just a really, really great way to finish off a project. They have the adhesive on the back already, so all you have to do is take them off of the plastic packaging and place them onto your project, and it's just the perfect way to finish off a card. Friends, I really like how this turned out. I hope you did too. Thank you so much for joining me today here at Honeybee Stamps. I've linked up to all of the products that I've used in this project in the description box below. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.